Drop the bass.
Freebird!
Yeah, Freebird. Stairway to Heaven. I should, you know, I was so bored the other night that I started just doing like on Audacity at home, and I processed it. It's like you could do all these tweaks and make it sound like it's going through a cell phone, and all the EQs messed up, and it sounded like really cool electronica drums. It's like, I wonder if I could produce a whole song just a cappella, but distort it to where you can't tell it's a dude just doing a cappella. Ella, Ella, hey, hey, my umbrella, Ella, Ella. Oh my.
I think Adventure Time sucked up half the con.
It's Adventure Time.
Yeah.
Talking about the ice cream white, you see white Barbie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Christina is doing that panel, right? Yeah. We were just grabbing sushi at the mall. A little place that has sushi on little boats that just goes in a circle. Like, that's so cool. And mesmerizing. It's like, I don't know what that is, but it looks good. I'll eat it. Fantastic. So anyway, so I'm Kyle, and I do voices for a living. And I'm also a self-professed geek or nerd. Let's just break this down. Is there a difference between being a geek and a nerd anymore?
It depends. Do you bite the heads off of live chickens?
If you eat the head off chickens, that is the actual meaning of the word geek. I don't think any of us do that. Do we have pocket protectors and glasses that are taped right here? I mean, maybe.
I got goggles in my bag.
I think that the current definitions, like people have opinions on which word means what. For like, one's supposed to be like more technical as opposed to culture related, but like,
right.
but people like believe that one is one and one's the other, but like everyone has their own opinion of which one's which.
Yeah.
As well, so it's like.
It seems like nerds might be like really into numbers and science and all that, and geeks seem to be more fandom related. Like, oh, I'm a geek about Star Trek or Star Wars. I'm a tech geek. I love technology or whatever. It seems like something that is on a pop culture level, like not scientific calculations and all that.
There's also the distinction that like the technical people are the Star Trek fans and the culture people are the Star Wars fans.
Could be. Although with J.J. Abrams' Star Trek, I mean, you could argue that that's the Star Wars version of Star Trek. And now that he's going to be directing both franchises, like, what? This is the Geek Out one, yes. This is a very laid back, there's no, I don't have any sort of list of what I'm talking about. It's pretty free form. We're just talking about geek subjects. I mean, I'm here as a guest of the con because of voice acting, but I mean, I like talking about stuff that I'm into, like tech and movies and all that. So back to Star Trek and Star Wars. So they announced that J.J. Abrams is doing Star Trek, and he's going to be doing episode 7 for Star Wars. And people are kind of divided on that, and everyone made the lens flare jokes. It's like, guys, come on, try to be a little more clever than that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch the Spielberg classics, Jaws, Close Encounters, Raider, there's tons of lens flare in that. Lens flare used to be an anomaly. They tried to avoid that. Now they're doing it as a stylistic Photoshop effect afterwards. I mean, there's even apps on smartphones that can add lens flare.
Like where lens flares became a stylistic thing, though, was Blade Runner with that specific lighting.
With Blade Runner?
Yeah, Blade Runner.
And that was 82, so yeah. And I've noticed that, yeah, and kind of like ever since Saving Private Ryan, they have the hyper, it almost looks sped up to where every frame is in focus. Like when you do an action scene, it just looks like it's shot on video all of a sudden, and then everything else is shown on film. But I, for one, love J.J. Abrams movies. I've not seen enough Fringe to judge. I watched the first episode of Fringe and then tuned out, saying, this looks like X-Files. I know it eventually became cool. All the Fringe people go, no, you gotta keep watching, it's so awesome. And I just never did. I never watched Lost because I was told that totally goes off the deep end, and it's like, or some crap like that. I'm like, well, now I don't want to watch. But in terms of movies, Mission Impossible 3 was pretty dope. Super 8 was incredible. A lot of lens flare in that. But Yeah, and Star Trek was amazing. I was scared when they announced that we're going to do a reboot of Star Trek with a younger cast, and I didn't think about it at first. And then I'm at the premiere, they're standing in line with all the Star Trek guys, not cast, but fans, in line for the midnight screening. It's like 8 o'clock at night, and everyone's wrapped around the theater, and it's like, there's a lot of girls here. Oh yeah, young cast. Chris Pine, yeah, all that stuff. Let's get the women into Star Trek on a bigger scale than they already are. I know there's a lot of female fans of Star Trek, but it seems it's like, since they, I'm not going to say dumbed down, but they did make it more mainstream, less technical and more sci-fi fantasy-like. I mean, it's still a time travel movie with a lot of things you gotta, like, pay attention, don't pee, you'll miss something. But I think it worked really, really well. So, as a fan of old school Trek and Next Gen, not so much Voyager, not Enterprise, and Deep Space Nine. That's just me. I love what J.J. Abrams did with that, and I can't wait for Into Darkness, even though it's a terrible name. But
I like that it wasn't actually time travel. That they just made it an alternate universe.
It's an alternate universe,
that's how all time travel should be.
Exactly. And if you sit there and nitpick it, nothing stands on its own. You can just pick apart any plot of any movie, of any story, of any time. So I'm just like, hey, I'm on board with this. I thought that was a pretty clever way to not mess with the continuity of the old school. It's like, all that stuff still happens. Your characters still do that, and Khan, all that stuff. And for all I know, Benedict Cumberbatch is Khan in this. He won't admit it, but it's like, this has gotta be, it's gotta be.
Even more girls are going to get into it now that Sherlock's a part of it.
Now that Sherlock's a part of it, doing his Batman voice. Oh yes, but with British. Oh wow, that's cool. I think it looks amazing. And then with him doing Star Wars, it'll be really interesting to see what sort of fresh vibe you can bring to Episode 7. Because Episode 7 should hopefully continue with the characters you know and love, or their offspring, if you follow the Heir to the Empire trilogy, set after Return of the Jedi. Han Solo, spoiler, and Leia have children, and Luke meets up with another Jedi, I guess. Mara Jade,
yeah,
and then they have kids.
And they're all gifted in the Force.
And they're all gifted in the Force, right? So I don't know if they're going to follow that at all, but I'm kind of excited at the notion of it's like, all right, let's forget the prequels. Thank God.
What about the Sith? Do they breed?
Sith happens. I don't know. Darth Maul was so cool. I wanted to see more of Maul, and they chopped him in half before he could do anything. And he came back in the Clone Wars, but I haven't seen the Clone Wars yet.
Who do they breed with? Somebody's got to continue the evil.
Yeah,
of the breeding.
That's true.
Right?
And as well they should.
Yeah, sure. Otherwise, who would they fight against?
I know. And then this past week, Latino Review, which has been correct some of the time and not correct other of the time. I don't know who they have spies working at, but apparently they're saying Harrison Ford is signed on. It's a done deal. He's going to be in Episode 7. Really? And the first thing I thought of was like, that's awesome. I would love to see Han Solo. I miss it. And then you think, oh wait, Crystal Skull.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't that bad. I don't think that affects it.
No, I mean, this time they got good people writing it.
Yeah.
I mean, the dude that wrote Toy Story 3 and J.J. Abrams directing. It's like, I think we got a good mix here. And then some of the offshoot movies, they're going to do offshoot character-oriented movies, like Yoda. I don't really care about Yoda. But Boba Fett, that'd be cool. When he's grown up and not a emo kid. I think having things that are separate, I think it sounds like, because Disney now owns everything, that they're doing like the Marvel plan. Let's have phase 1. Every character has its own film, and then we'll put them together into the big overarching story, like the Avengers. And now we're going to go do phase 2, and now you're going to get Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor 2, Captain America 2, Iron Man 3, and then Avengers 2, and so forth. It's like, and people go, oh, Disney's terrible. It's like, but it gave us the Avengers. Come on, I think they're doing well with the Marvel properties. And Marvel's income, 90% of the comic, the money made by that company is the movies. A lot of people get on the cases of movie studios, like, you changed this, you ruined X-Men by doing this, and blah, 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 blah. First and foremost, I'm a movie fan. I do enjoy comics very much, but I understand why movie studios feel compelled to do things to make it more palatable to a mainstream audience. If you only cater to an audience that's 10% of your income, for example, you see where I'm going with this? But you want to have that appeal, not necessarily dumbing down, but having elements that will jive better dramatically in a movie format. That's why it never really bugged me that, you know, the Tim Burton Batman, the Jack Nicholson thing, you know, for convenience sake. Hey, Jack Nicholson killed his parents. All right,
Yeah.
that's fine. It's a movie. It's one movie. It's not going to undo the universe of Batman and all that. You can go back, you'll have that. And there's all these wonderful adaptations, especially, you know, DC home video movies that you get of Batman, for example. You get Dark Knight Returns, finally, which is awesome. The Frank Miller adaptation of the 1986 graphic novel series. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Spidey, you know, people saw all the new Spidey-Man. Andrew Garfield, you know, great actor, he did a great job with it. The movie's kind of meh.
Yeah.
Anyone here really liked The Amazing Spider-Man? Thought it was better?
Except for the construction.
The construction, the cranes all lining up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except for that, I thought it was pretty good.
It was pretty good. It's not great, but I went into it knowing that the reason that movie even exists is so that Sony can hold on to the rights.
Really?
Sony made so much money with those other three. And, you know, Fox has made so much money with X-Men. That's why First Class exists.
Yeah.
Now, First Class is awesome.
Did you hear we're going to get the Days of Future Past?
Yeah, Days of Future Past.
That's
And
going to be sweet.
you're going to get some X-Men in there from the first trilogy.
Yeah, the same actors have signed on.
Yeah.
What's her name? Who played
You
Chad?
got, yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I heard it was a contract thing with library against First rights. The contract said something about the lines of they can keep the license as long as they make a movie or
Yeah, it just renews the license once they do that. So now that Amazing Spider-Man exists, then boom, Fox wants to reboot Fantastic Four, so it won't lose them. Spidey is technically in the comics, he's an Avenger now, right? Anyone read Spider-Man, the comic book? I don't. It's like, I love the movies of Iron Man and Thor, but I don't read the comics. And Captain America, it's like, they're great movie characters. I know they're comic book characters, but like, they never interested me as comic book characters.
Could comics sort of die off since movies are doing so well?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And then some things you hope never become movies,
Yeah.
like Neil Gaiman's Sandman. All right, that's my personal favorite of all time. I think no one can touch that. I think, yeah, it's a comic book. I'm sorry? Can they? Warner Brothers bought the rights to it like over a decade ago, but they've sat on it. They sat on it, and let's hope they forget about it. They also have the rights to Death, the High Cost of Living, the miniseries, the spinoff, which might work. And like, hey, Marissa Tomei would make a nice Death, but I don't know. Yeah, the movie pitches and all that. I met Neil Gaiman and got him to sign my stuff, and I asked him about the movie. It's like, do you see this happening? He's like, no, I think it's all
I think
books.
that could work out as like a kind of like an what? Oh gosh, what channel is doing Walking Dead? Like,
AMC.
AMC. I think I can see like AMC or one of those like premium cable
HBO.
HBO doing a Death miniseries.
Yeah, sure. For cable, that's sure. I mean, for years they were going to do Preacher, which I thought would have been great. The guy who played Cyclops in the old X-Men was all signed up to be the main character, and then that fell through. Like, oh. But yeah, I think cable's a good home. You know, you see how Game of Thrones has really taken off and all that stuff. So you know, there's room for genre. Even on, you know, not all of us have HBO, but I'm sure everyone has their methods for acquiring episodes.
I'd say paint Bruce Willis green, put a fin on his head, and do Savage Dragon.
Savage Dragon and Bruce Willis. I can see it. I always thought Vin Diesel would make a good Piccolo. Back when Fox first licensed Dragon Ball in 2001, and people started throwing names around, like who should be in the live action movie? And then it never happened. And then 2009 rolls around, and they actually did it. They spent $20 million, shot it in Mexico, and it came and it bombed like everyone knew it would.
Would you be upset if Andrew Garfield was Goku?
I think the problem is inherent in the screenplay. If you cast all Asians in that, because everyone's like, there's no Asians, you can't have a white guy be Goku.
Goku's an alien.
He is an alien.
I just completely blocked out that Dragon Ball movie.
You
I
should.
forgot it existed for a
You should.
minute, and I think that was a blessing.
And it made money overseas.
Wait, wasn't James Marsters?
Yeah. Spike from Buffy was Piccolo. I think that was like, hey, Chuck. And, you know, I mean, if you're 10 years old, maybe it's not the worst movie ever made.
Like 90% of that budget went to Master Roshi's.
Getting Chow Yun-Fat involved, right?
Wasn't it Ken Watanabe?
No, Chow Yun-Fat.
It was Chow Yun-Fat. Well, most of the budget went to his salary.
I'm sure it did. And yeah, it's like, well, we got one name in this thing. And then Emmy Rossum and the guy who played Goku are now on Shameless, which is successful. I'm like, yay for them. But wow, yeah, the movie made money overseas enough to make him think, let's make a sequel.
No,
Really? Really? You're gonna go there?
It's one of those movies, it's like Super Mario Brothers. You know there's so many things wrong with it, but
Sure.
some people do enjoy it.
Sure. Oh, well, yeah. In a very campy sort of way.
I know why I like that movie.
I can't watch Dragon Ball if I'm sober.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
Probably do need some level of inebriation.
Or Street Fighter.
But you get
Yeah.
something like that, chill with your friends, it's better.
The Van Damme one is pretty interesting.
Real quick, could you do
You can
a...
totally tell that in the Van Damme one, who was the actor for M. Bison?
Raw Julia.
Yeah.
He
nailed it.
He had cancer while he was doing
Yeah.
that role, and like he totally just he did that movie. He signed up for his kids and like just for fun. And, like,
Yeah.
you can totally tell like he's having fun the entire time.
He had fun with it, and you can tell. And then they have
Of
a
course.
climactic fight. It's like, let's insert a stuntman. I don't think he was strong enough to do all that stuff. But
Fly through the air.
yeah. Yeah.
I mean, about all these comic book movies, though.
Sure.
Like someone mentioned earlier that comics were dying,
Yeah.
but the movies also were kind of bolstering their sales a little.
Oh, totally.
It's been getting people to be like, well, I like this and I want more. So,
Right.
I mean, it definitely got me to read Journey into Mystery. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, maybe it's also an advertising venue and
Oh,
trying
totally.
to get more people that, you know, it hasn't reached before.
When it starts in one medium, it tries to cross over into another. Like, the whole reason Transformers and He-Man existed was to sell toys.
Yeah.
Let's just face it. It's just blatant, in-your-face advertising.
G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe, exactly. To sell action figures, to do all that. Thundercats, the new one, which was actually technically an anime, because Madhouse, I think, animated it, but it's a cartoon. Oh, there you go, 4 Degrees. They did not decide to renew it. It wasn't because it had low ratings, it's because it didn't sell enough toys.
That's how Symbiotic Titan died too.
I know, and Symbiotic Titan was really good. I liked it. It's weird, but that's why I like it. It's like, it's kind of quirky. It's kind of cool. But, you know, hopefully it will have enough rating. I have no idea. I haven't been following, but I know it's on Toonami, on the super late night lineup, and they just ended the last episode, and they're just going to rerun it again. You know, kind of like Cowboy Bebop and whatnot. And, you know, if it has the ratings, then it will flourish, and hopefully the producers will get the budget and the green light to do more. Something that has done phenomenal on video and totally tanked in the theaters was Dredd. I love Dredd.
Yeah.
Carl Urban as Dredd. Now, people avoided this because they thought of Stallone like, I am the law. Like, no, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. And people go, oh, it's just a rip-off of The Raid. It's like, no, actually, the screenplay for Dredd was written before The Raid. The Raid didn't have any post-production. Dredd has a ton of special effects. So, while The Raid came out first, Dredd was actually written first. So, that's my argument for that. I've not seen The Raid. I know the plots are very similar, you know, just trying to go from floor to floor in this high-rise building and kill people. It's basically the plot. So, but Dredd, highly recommended. In 3D, dare I say. 3D is a gimmick that I am not a big fan of, and I have yet to meet someone who thinks it is. but yet Hollywood still forces 3D down our throats. If a movie kicked ass visually, it really, there was justification for 3D for that. And same with Dread. Transformers 3 even. I mean, they're a guilty pleasure of mine. People that Michael Bay ruined Transformers, like, I think they're fun. They're awful, yes, I know. But Transformers 3, because it was 3D, made Michael Bay have to slow down his cutting, his editing, so you could actually focus on a shot. You know, he usually like, and you can't tell what's going on, right? But 3D, your eye can only process so much, so he slowed it down. It's like, oh, wow. When you tighten the reins on Mr. Bay, you can actually make something a little bit better. I mean, that was like robot porn. The last 40 minutes, this giant battle in downtown Chicago. You know, they're beating up Leonard Nimoy's prime, you know, like all that stuff. Like, that was so cool.
In the first Transformers movie, one of the robots falls off the side of the building and lands in the sidewalk and makes this giant imprint where he landed, right? And there's this civilian who gets kind of shockwaved and falls down like next to his imprint, and then just gets up and walks away.
Of course.
This is like, what? Really?
Don't you always get up and walk away when a giant robot crashes next to you?
No!
I do.
I've never, and I don't think I would.
Sorry. About 3D though, I'm finding it's working a lot more with animated films, like DreamWorks films.
Sure.
And live action stuff.
Yeah, it's nice to see depth.
I want to see
in
Pixar
animation.
do a Marvel movie.
Oh yeah.
Since it's owned by Disney now, right?
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, there's that. If you can make a 3D movie without having to wear glasses, what a concept. I don't know. But yeah, I don't like that 3D is being shoved down your throat. But I hear, and I guess it kind of makes sense, the actual justification is not just the fact that Avatar became the best profiting movie ever. It's really the fact that it's hard to bootleg. You can't really pirate a 3D movie, not easily. And then 3D TVs, no one wants those, no one cares.
Yeah.
You know? So 3D movies, however, are a reason to get out and yeah, you pay more. But you still get the best value at home, right? You get 5 hours of bonus features and it looks better and it's clearer and there's no other kids talking and people texting while you're trying to watch the movie and you're not paying another $50 in popcorn and drinks for your family and all that stuff. So sometimes you realize, I just wait 4 months for the video.
Yeah.
I'm not patient though. If I want, I'm not waiting to see Star Trek Into Darkness. I'm going on day one and seeing it in IMAX. IMAX, on the other hand, they can put every movie in IMAX. Here, take my money. IMAX is amazing.
Yeah.
It's like a big Blu-ray.
It's worth pointing out though that not every IMAX is made equal.
Yes.
I think that I feel a lot of people hopefully the first time they see an IMAX movie is at the Metreon.
Yeah.
It's a giant screen. I
Right.
recently went to the one that's in Emeryville, and it's tiny.
Yeah, they pay the same price and it's not
Yeah.
the 80-foot screen. It's
Yeah.
not the actual full dimension. So yeah, there's like usually one theater in town, if you're in a big town like San Francisco, that you can get true IMAX. So do a little research before you go, because if you're going to pay the same money, you may as well get every maximum bang for your buck. A friend here just brought up The Hobbit. I have not seen The Hobbit, and I'm not terribly interested now that most people say that it's very padded, that a lot of it's really dull. It's like, there's a cut a good hour out of it and it's fine. Like, and 48 frames per second is this, looks like it's sped up and shot on video technology. That, oh, it looks more lifelike. Like, does it?
The trio of pain. 48 frames per second,
Yes.
IMAX 3D.
IMAX 3D. I don't think IMAX is painful for you? You don't like IMAX?
Combine all three together.
Yeah.
IMAX.
I
That
saw it
exists
today.
for the Hobbit.
Okay. Yeah, well, is the 48 frames only in IMAX?
No.
Or only in 3D?
Is that with smell-o-vision?
Smell-o-vision. Yeah, I don't know.
They actually brought that back for the last Spy Kids.
Smell-o-vision. God. Some things you just don't want to smell. Yeah.
I have a good about the TV.
Sure.
thing is, when there's a series like Spider-Man or the whole Captain America, I know it's Marvel makes there's many different incarnations, and they keep rebooting the series.
Sure.
Different writers and different generations, so they pretty much have to repackage. So there's already like multiple incarnations. Spider-Man and just about anything else that's just made for the new generation of kids. So movie adaptations, all they're doing is they're doing the same thing that was in the comic book. They might take a little bit of change here and there, but they're essentially taking a summary. I don't see why people get so worked up about how they change like maybe a few tiny details just because they want to make things marketable, or maybe because they had a different vision that seems like it might work a little bit different or a little bit better. And it's like, essentially, I can see how that's going to be a problem for, those long runners, but at the same time, it's not as bad just because they're not 100% faithful to the comic. Meanwhile, another series like Scott Pilgrim, or anything that's got like the one shot, if it's just like that one story that exists that has like that beginning and end, there's only so far they can do to like take some liberties. And of course, Scott Pilgrim wasn't like the comic book, but they still were able to like make it a very powerful story.
Totally. I think it works as a movie. I haven't read the comics, so I don't know.
And I think like there is that little divide where it's like, okay, do they make it exactly like the comic book? Do they like, hold to it faithfully, but they still try to make it its own thing without having to go like, oh, let's just use the comic book as a script.
Yeah.
So it's just, I think that there are some one shots that can make it really good. I just don't think like everything can be like 100% faithful to the comic.
Yeah. And again, you got to make it mainstream, and depending on the property, it's either to hold on to a license, or they want to just see if they can redo it. I mean, they had the Ang Lee version of Hulk that didn't resonate with anybody, and then they decided, all right, let's build this up to eventual Avengers. So they had, Ed Norton as the Hulk, and he was not in the Avengers because, he talked a lot of smack against Universal, because when his screenplay was very long and very character-driven and everything, and they chopped it down to basically an action movie when the Hulk came out. So he refused to do press for it. So Universal said, fine, we'll just recast you. And they did.
Very well, my dad.
Oh, very well, absolutely. Mark Ruffalo is great. Awesome. But I like Ed Norton, too.
About with adaptations, the thing is, even though it doesn't necessarily seem it, again, the comics medium and like movies are different. Because, for instance, with a movie, it goes through at a set speed. With comics, you can look at a frame and analyze every single detail in it. You can spend as much time as you want. You can also go forwards and backwards. But if you're in a movie, boom, 90 minutes, no matter what, you're done.
Yeah, until it comes on video, then you can analyze all you want, frame by frame. And then you see things that are really faithful, like Sin City or Watchmen. And they're pretty darn faithful adaptations. Well, yeah, kind of wacky.
And then they did Spirit.
Spirit, yeah. It's like, this looks like Sin City, and then
Okay, sorry, bringing it to anime for a second.
Yeah.
One, congratulations on getting on Fate Zero.
Thank you.
Two, I am very sorry for how trash your vocal cords are going to get like Berserker.
Fate Zero. I know nothing about it other than the director of the dub, Tony Oliver, says that it's amazing. It's a really cool story. Beautiful animation, a great score, and so far he's right. What I've seen of what I've been doing on there, and it does trash my vocal cords, do a lot of yelling. My character is Berserker. I don't know if you've watched the Fate Zero on Crunchyroll or anything, but it's all out there now. And we're working on the dub, and it'll eventually be on Neon Alley. If you have a PS3 or Xbox, you can watch your anime legal. And if you like dubs, it's dubbed only, and it's like $7 a month. It's like Netflix. It's not on demand. That's the one thing I kind of wish. People like on demand. You asked me 5 years ago, I never would have thought on demand would be a thing, but people want to watch when they want to watch. That's why DVRs are such a big thing now.
I think it's kind of interesting, though, what Neon Alley is doing, because feels like because I feel like the past 10 years we have been in an on-demand world, it's like, I feel like discoverability has kind of died a little bit. So the fact that they kind of force you to schedule.
Yeah, I mean, people have at times. It's like, if 1 week you have 1 new episode of Blue Exorcist, which I'm in, you can watch that. I voice for Eugene. You could watch that and say, oh, I missed the Tuesday screening. Oh, there's a morning one, an afternoon one, and a night one. Oh, it repeats again on Tuesday, morning, afternoon, and night. So you got a whole week. It's not just one time, one night, like Walking Dead is only on Sunday nights. But you know, they repeat it like 3 or 4 times, like all night long. So it's not the end of the world if you miss the debut stream.
Also, I think on-demand kind of curbs pirating a bit. Because, you know, the whole entire point I've seen of pirating is I want this right now, I want it for free. And then, you know, it's like, oh, well, I can pay a cheap price to be able to access all of these things right now, right when I want to see it.
Outside of financials, and this is from Gabe Newell, who streamed, you know, Valve, billionaire, is that piracy is a service issue.
Okay.
That's his thing. Like, piracy is on the concerns of Valve as a company. And no, PC gaming, tons of piracy.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Piracy is on their list because they said it's like we worked on making a better service, and our piracy problems went away.
Yeah. I think with anime, you're never going to make piracy, well, in music, movie, any sort of, here is a media project I want to own and I don't want to pay for. You're never going to 100% get rid of that. You can minimize it to a degree, but in the end, you know. It's basically, the people in the internet have forced a new business model for companies, especially anime companies, because it's a niche market, you know. It's like 1% of the entire entertainment spectrum. So naturally, if everyone just fan subs and pirates entire seasons of shows and doesn't buy them, of course it makes sense that there's no money going back in the system and studios close down.
Another thing, with the games industry, I've worked on a couple, including Call of Duty and whatnot. And one thing that we do often is we will test for all the foreign builds, because everything, at least as far as the games industry goes, and this is happening with most everything, even stuff that is really long, like Metal Gear, simultaneous worldwide release. Because there's the internet.
Yeah.
It will get around the world. You can't stop it with territory blocks.
Yeah. I don't understand region coding. I don't understand, like, oh, Wreck-It Ralph comes out November in the States, but it's not even out in some places in the world yet. And it's coming on video in a couple of weeks. So naturally, everyone in those places, like in Japan, it just came out in the theaters, they're gonna go on Pirate Bay or wherever and just get a nice HD copy. You can get it on iTunes legit right now.
They're gonna torrent it!
They're gonna torrent it!
From what I understand of that, it's territorial contracts, because sometimes there's different distributors for different territories. That's why there's region locking. So those people who license it for that particular area of the world sells it, and it doesn't get heard by the US.
It's weird, and some movie studios do that too. Avengers came out first in Australia. It's like, it's an American movie.
And going back to Fate Zero with that, the Blu-ray box sets, there's the Japanese only one and there's the US only one. They're the same things, but one, they're not allowed to be imported to the other regions.
Plus one of them is $300.
Yeah, the US one is cheaper. It's in essence the same thing, because we're region 1.
Right.
And Japan's region 1 now.
Are they?
Yeah.
They changed the region?
Blu-ray is rated.
Oh. Because they're releasing this year Gurren Lagann as a box set, limited. It's like $500.
That is why we are seeing that, because they're afraid of the Japanese box.
Yeah.
The video market developed completely differently over there.
Wow.
In that they have a heavy rental culture. Buying DVDs was a rarity, except for the hardcore top who buy it away. It's going to get around the same amount of sales. It's like Max.
Right, and DVDs in Japan have always been like an episode or two, like $65 a disc. It's like, you thought you had it bad here? Getting 3 to 5 episodes a disc for $20, $25? And then season sets come out, It's like some companies will do like, the incentive will be like, if you want all the cool extras, buy the individual volumes. Or you can save money and get the little thin pack season box, which a lot of people do. Or you just wait and watch it legit on Netflix or Crunchyroll. Yeah.
Actually, interesting that was brought up. I remember hearing that because of the whole Blu-ray region thing, that a Blu-ray said, a certain anime, a Blu-ray said released in the States has no Japanese tracks, so that people in Japan try to get free.
Persona 4 does not have the Japanese track on it because of the demands of the Japanese company that owns it.
Because they want to reverse importation?
They want to keep the Japanese people from being able to watch in their own language unless they get the Japanese one.
Oh, that's interesting. I wonder how well that's working.
A lot of anime fans have an issue with that.
And sorry to go on long, but the reason for the Japanese cost is because they, unlike shows in the US, they do not make any money from the television market. So you could have the #1 show animated in Japan, and you're not making anything. Everything, that's why shows are more heavily focused on merchandise, and the DVDs are so much more expensive.
Right.
Because that's where they built getting their money from. And that was great in the 80s and 90s, but when the net came out...
yeah, the internet, like I said, it goes back to the internet has changed the way we consume media, for better or for worse. The music industry, you know, those days are gone when you sign to a label and they give you $1 million to make your album and all that. Because now you can make your music at home for free and host it on Facebook or wherever, you know, promote it on Facebook and Twitter, build your following, and then boom. Bands don't make money from album sales anymore. They make money from touring and selling merchandise. Because everyone's busy downloading the albums for free. And some people embrace that and understand that, like Trent Reznor, 9 Inch Nails, and his new side project with his wife, How to Destroy Angels. They put it out there. It's like, here, you want download our album for free. And we're going to give you options. Oh, you want a high lossless codec sound in Blu-ray? We'll sell that to you. You want it on vinyl? We'll sell it to you. Like, that's smart. But, you know, naturally, not every band is a big name like Trent Reznor.
Oh, and
has
also
funding.
Back in the day, unless you were the top tier acts, you didn't actually make anything from the records. The record companies make the money from the records.
They give you $1 million and then they recoup their costs when the album sells. And then the touring, that's where the...
Yeah. Touring was always where the money was as far as music money, which I guess is why...
Right.
As at least labels have been screwed over, but the actual musical artists are like, this is the best thing ever.
Yeah, like, can you imagine an entity giving you millions of dollars for you to do your project, whether it's animation or music, movies, whatever, and then the pressure's on. They're not giving you that money. That's an investment. You have to make that money back. You have to give it every dime of it back. And if not, they'll sue you. So, that sounds like a great first world problem to have, right? It's like, hey, I want to make my own animation series. I want to pitch it, and maybe Netflix will buy it and do everything. Well, they're investing because they think they're going to make money on it, not because they want to give you money. So that's kind of, it needs to be at the back of your mind as creators. And I know we have a lot of future animators in here and voice actors and everything. And when I come to a con, that's almost everybody in the audience can draw, and you know, want to do something with that. I want to make animation one day. I want to sell it. I want to do all that. So that's kind of an important thing to keep in mind. Are we having fun? We have 15 more minutes.
I'll say is I look forward to where Creative Commons is going to go with the concept.
Where what is?
Creative Commons.
Oh, Creative Commons.
As long as lawyers exist, you have no hope.
Yeah. Creative Commons is a copyright thing where you're saying, hey, this property is out there, free to use, you can use it.
Non-profit.
Right, non-profit. Like a lot of bands and musicians put their music online for free. It's like they ask, like, hey, honor system, just credit me. Use my song in your podcast. You know, put like intro song by I Shine, you know, and then link back to their website. You know, that's kind of like scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, sort of thing. And that's a great grassroots, homegrown sort of way to do that. Social media. Let's talk about social media. Facebook and Twitter. Some people think it's the devil. And certainly anything in excess can be. You know, privacy issues and like, I'm going to be out of town this weekend, and then your place gets robbed. Or Foursquare check-in. It's like, I'm at such and such restaurant, and then they, you know, someone kidnaps you or stalks you. Mouth advertising ever, and it's free. That's why companies and studios and everything have to change their marketing scheme. I mean, they're paying people salaries to sit there and market their product to you, but they basically are forced to use the free version, which is Twitter and Facebook. And they're counting on retweets for you to reshare their post, so hey, word of mouth. Hey, guess what? Animation on displays this weekend.
And that's why every contest now is like us on Facebook or like us on Twitter.
Which is the worst.
Yeah.
Tumblr.
The worst.
Yeah, you got advertisers making their posts look like everyday people. Instagram doing that now too. Like, well, Instagram's owned by Facebook. They bought them for $1 billion. You know they're going to do something to make their money back. But you know, personally, I love social media. But you know, you got to be a responsible poster. What you put out there, you know. You can annoy people really easily if you're obnoxious and emo all the time. It's like, I hate my life, and all your posts are all negative. You got to watch what you put out there, because no one wants to listen to a negative Nancy all the time. It's like, you don't want to get too personal and start, you know, ranting and raving too much, you know, because God, I've seen friendships just dissolve over people talking about, you know, when it was happening, the election, you know, politics, religion, all that stuff. It gets so ugly. I hate that.
I would
That's another side of social
doing
media.
that if there was, you know, a statute of limitations or a certain amount of time they held onto the data and then it was destroyed. But
Oh, yeah.
They index and archive everything,
Right.
regardless of if you delete it or not.
Yeah, they're rolling out on Twitter your ability to go back and just see your archive of everything you've ever posted. I think that's interesting from a nostalgic point of view. It's like, oh, I joined Twitter like 5 years ago. What was my first tweet? I don't know. I mean, you can only scroll back so far on their website. I mean, it gets a little cumbersome, but I think it's kind of interesting to see. Then it gets morbid. Like if you follow people that passed away for some reason, were in a car wreck, they got cancer, and then you read their posts. It's like, this is morbid. And their Facebook page still exists.
Yeah.
Like a former guest of this convention, Carl Masek. You know, he passed away, but his page is still there. So his birthday rolls around, people are still wishing him happy birthday. It's like, aw, that's sad. It's like, so I don't know, what happens to your digital self, your second life, when you go away? Like when you delete your account and you say to yourself, I'm removing myself, I'm unplugging, no more Instagram, no more Twitter, no more Facebook. Does your stuff really go away? Or is it sitting there on a server somewhere?
It's sitting on a server, and that's the issue.
Yeah. And then, you know, 20, 30 years from now, your children are going to be like, I wonder what mom and dad tweeted about on this ancient thing called Twitter. And they're going to see all your, you know, your sexting and your pictures you didn't mean to get out there. Here's me drunk and topless, woo! You know, like, I didn't mean that to get out.
Yeah, and considering that places like Microsoft and, you know, I know for a fact that the CIA has, there's intelligence groups that are specifically targeting things like Facebook because that's what everyone's using.
Sure.
It's in essence we do their job for them, spying on us.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if the government hires people that work for Anonymous. Isn't that a scary group? I mean, it's kind of interesting. You're like, hey, they're like the Batman of the internet sometimes. It's like, we're gonna like take down the Westboro Baptist Church. It's like, awesome, awesome. But it's scary because they could take down anything. If they could take down the government servers, then like, well, God, we're in trouble, right? So stay on the good side.
Anonymous is the very name itself. It's anonymous. It's just a bunch of people doing something under a particular name.
Yeah.
That's why you can't stop it, because anyone can just become anonymous.
That's true.
No, what's also
it's
funny.
It's the real concept of the laughing man.
What's funny though about anonymous is that you, like, regardless of, even though technically you can say, anyone can say that they're anonymous, there is like a distinct group of a network group of people who are like they know who's hacking what, and they stake claim to whatever their action is. But like if someone outside of that group does something, you know, the official organization of Anonymous, who are releasing this PR releases and stuff like that, is like, oh, you know, that wasn't us.
Well, yeah, well, there also will be two groups of Anonymous who say, this does not reflect us. This Anonymous does
we're not the Anonymous, we're the other Anonymous.
If I remember correctly, it was an anonymous, one of the anonymous subgroups that came up with the idea of the Occupy movements.
Yeah.
Right.
There you go. Let's go to the back of the room here. That's what you're
Sorry.
So, member of the military here.
Ah, yes.
It exists. Like, in our military,
yes.
there is a career field in the Air Force specifically made up of hackers. Like,
yeah.
That's their job. They sit there and they hack enemy computers and enemy systems and pull the information from Facebook and Twitter. And there's a portion of that career field that specifically is designed to defend against other militaries. Like, China's got an enormous hacker community inside of their military.
We're also turning Iran into a hacking superpower because we keep fucking with them.
Oh, yeah.
There's that danger. Yeah, and then the scary part is, okay, so our government hires, you know, say 100 people whose job is to hack into anything. What if one of them goes rogue? Which becomes like a TV show or a movie, right? It's like, that's got to be happening somewhere. Just like, you know, postmen go postal. You know, they lose their job and they shoot up everything or whatnot. There's going to be a hacker out there that's like, I work for the good of, you know, or that ex-LAPD guy. You know, he used to be on the side of the law, and they decided I was wronged. And, you know, while some feel that he had legit concerns, no one's going to say, like, you had every right to kill people in retaliation. It's like, no, let's not do that. But, eesh, scary.
Oh, and even before the internet, look it up, or maybe they reclassified it. Echelon.
Echelon?
Yeah.
Okay.
What is Echelon?
It was this giant-ass spy network. They were basically intercepting and listening to satellite communications, cell phone transmissions, you name it. They even had a 60 Minutes thing on it, and then they reclassified the thing.
Ah.
What video games do you play?
On a happy note.
I'm on a happy note. I'm a button masher. I have a Vita, a 3DS. I love the Vita. I wish it would do better. There's not a lot of great games for it, but I think it's a great system. 3DS I love. Street Pass thing. Games I love playing, mostly iOS, iPhone, iPad stuff. I love, what do I love? First-person shooters, Halo. I love Call of Duty, Left 4 Dead. I love Street Fighter, I love Soul Calibur. iPhone games, what do I play the most? I play like Words with Friends, Angry Birds, Bejeweled, Uno, good old-fashioned Uno, Temple Run. I have short attention spans, so iPhone games are built for people who are like, I can game for 5 minutes and go back to my life. Like, that's good. Because even if I'm playing a console game, I was like, I'm going to tune out after 15, 20 minutes. Like, all right, I'm done. Unless I'm playing with friends online, then suddenly 4 hours is gone. It's like if I play with friends on Halo, we're sitting there, so how's it going? And then suddenly it's 4 a.m. Like, oh, whoops. Yeah, I consider myself a casual gamer, but I've always loved games. My first system was Atari 2600 in the late 70s, early 80s. Then I got ColecoVision, and then Nintendo, and Super Nintendo. Skipped the Nintendo 64. Never got a Sega CD or anything. My first Sega system was Dreamcast. I still say that's a great system. That's where I learned to fall in love with Soul Calibur. Then I've gotten every iteration of Xbox and PlayStation since then. I had a Wii for a little bit, and then I'm like, I never play with this, so I sold it. Every DS that comes out, I always trade in and get the new version. So I had a PSP, traded that in for the PSP Slim, traded that in, got a Vita. Here we are, still waiting for more games to come out on the Vita. Like Marvel vs. Capcom, yeah! Mortal Kombat, what else? Wipeout, okay. What else? Gravity Rush, okay. And yeah. How's what?
How's Otherworld Steve doing?
Otherworld Steve. He's my buddy. I used to do a podcast with my buddy Steve. He's doing great. He's raising 2 sons, happily married, still happy with his job. I mean, we hope to revisit our Big Ball broadcast, which is a podcast about geek stuff, like what we've been talking about today. Resurrected, getting on like a bigger network and more exposure and all that. Thank you for listening. That's cool. Yeah, I did podcasting for 5 years. I came from radio. I worked as a DJ for like 13 years, podcaster for 5, and then podcasts are great. I listen to a ton on the airplane. I listen to a lot of, I work for Kevin Smith, you know, smodcast.com. I do the voiceover for all the promos on that. Good stuff. I think podcasting is great. Of course, it's decimated radio, but the cool thing is any one of you could have your own talk show about whatever you want it to be. We can talk about military hackers in the Military Hacker Podcast. Talk about Anonymous Podcast or Echelon Podcast. We can talk about, you know, all sorts of stuff. The Marvel Universe Podcast. Fun times. And it's really easy to do. And you can set up free versions of everything. Get a podcast out to the world. When I started in radio, you had to get an FCC license, and you had to apply to the station, and you've got to do whatever that station does. You can't just come to them going, I want to do a talk show about anime. Like, no. You're going to play top 40, and you're going to play these same Justin Bieber songs over and over again. Like, really? Okay. That's basically how that works.
If I'm remembering correctly, did you used to work for Disney Radio?
I did. Radio Disney. Then they still exist. Radio Disney, I was on the air, my DJ name was Squeege, and I've met many anime fans who used to listen to me growing up. And then I left that job in 2005 to move to LA. Radio Disney used to be in Dallas, and now they're down the street from me in Burbank. It's like, oh, irony. But they know that I left that full-time job in radio to pursue voice acting, so I moved to Burbank and been there ever since, and they've been down the street, and they have no interest in hiring me ever again. Like, okay. Sometimes it gets a little, stressful when I'm not voicing, because it's freelance. VO gigs are rare as you're trying to get established. And me being in LA for 7 years feels like I'm still the new guy. Steve Bloom and all that, for like 20 plus years in the industry. I got a long way to go. So I always feel like the new guy, even though 7 years is a long time.
13 years.
13 years, wow. Man, yeah. So if you want to become a freelancer, just know what you're up against. Have a day job or have some sort of income to get by. You're gonna have to. I worked day job, not a day job, but like internet audio post-production for internet talk shows for the first few years. And then that barely kept me afloat. And then those jobs went away. Those talk shows just dissipated, like no more. And then I'm living on voiceover, which sounds great, but sometimes it's a little bit like, am I gonna get to pay the rent this month? So yeah.
Yeah, I actually had a couple of comments
sure.
that I got. No, I actually talked with another voice actor named Patrick Seitz.
Yes, Patrick's awesome, yeah.
Patrick is awesome, and I'm desperate to meet him someday because I...
Sure.
He read my college thesis. It was the dorkiest thing ever.
Yeah, dorks.
I actually talked to him about the whole day job voice actor angle because I knew he was a teacher. So, but no, it was weird because he was telling me, well, it's actually kind of hard to be a voice actor when you don't necessarily have the time that the studios need you to have.
Right. Yeah. Your best advice is you wanna do acting of any kind. Make sure your day job is really more of a night job or a graveyard shift, because we tend to record from 9 to 5 or 6, Monday through Friday. Once in a while on the weekends, but that's kind of rare. So yeah, if you have like a waitressing job or something, you work in retail, you got to be available at some point during the week. I mean, it's like, okay, Monday and Tuesdays I can't do it at all. I got to work at my job. That's fine. You're still available Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You still got a shot. You will always audition more than you actually work. Always. Even though you say to yourself, man, I hope I get this. I really nailed that audition. Like, well, it's not up to you. You can't cast yourself. So yeah.
You can't.
Well, no, I kill time watching Facebook and Twitter, streaming into the dead hours of the night, talking about this stuff with people on Ustream and all that stuff. Anyway, looks like it's about that time, but thank you for coming to the Geek Talk panel. Hope you liked it. You want to follow me on Twitter, it's at Kyle Hebert. So I tweet when I go live and do a live stream. Sometimes it's on Ustream, maybe going to a different service soon, but we'll see. And I usually stream super late at night, like after 11 p.m. Pacific time, so it's really late. So if you happen to be up and you're bored and you see like, Kyle TV is live, click on it. You can see the chat room and join the fun, and we'll talk about this stuff. We'll talk about random things. We'll talk about whatever. And sometimes it's not safe for work. Not because of nudity, just profanity. We say wordy dirts. Anyway, thanks for coming, guys.
Can you sign off using the DBZ narrator?
Oh, God.
Next time on Dragon Ball Z. Ta-da! Next time on Animation on Display. Okay, go forth. Enjoy the rest of your day, folks. Thank you.